think I would describe Throne as an attempt to do a deep dive into the reality of difficult conversation, of finding a sense of belonging and unity when you disagree fundamentally with the people that you're trying to engage with or belong to. The initial idea for Throne came through a conversation with an amazing woman called Heather Nielsen, who is herself a backhold wrestler. And we were just having a chat during a project that we were doing for NTS at the time called Them. And we got bored because we were hanging about waiting for camera crew to get their stuff together, and as always happens. And so we started to chat, and I just asked what she did in her spare time. And she said, backhold wrestling. And I said, what? So the reason backhold wrestling then became a catalyst for story for me was that it's such a perfect vehicle for discussing what it is to wrestle with a sense of self, a sense of national identity, a sense of belonging. Yeah, it was just a perfect metaphor for, self-discovery. One of the really exciting things for me when I write, and this sounds really cliche, but the characters do speak and their voices feel really distinct and very clear. Certainly in this process, we'll see what happens next. But for this play, and it was exciting because sometimes they would even surprise me in the direction that they took conversations or the things that were said. And I have a really visual mind, so the scenes and scenarios played out very clearly, almost like watching a film. And it was almost like I was dictating the film rather than creating the narrative, if that makes sense. So I got to watch something and write it down and document it. So for me, the process of finding the characters, I just knew that I wanted an intergenerational cast. And as soon as I knew that, then the characters appeared really quickly and readily. They did shift and change over the process. So their struggles weren't exactly the same struggles that they had necessarily at the start of the play's life. And through development, working with actors who would help draw out aspects of their character or potential struggles in their past, I guess the characters' journeys became richer and more layered. But certainly in terms of their core personality, that was quite set for me right from the beginning. One of the things I most enjoyed about the process of developing the piece was how collaborative it was, and having people read your work, feedback on your work. It was always really surprising to see the different ways in which what you've written was interpreted. And you always think, oh yeah, I know exactly what I'm saying here. And then someone's like, oh, you mean A? And I was like, no, I really meant C, but okay, right, where did they get A from? And so one of the fun parts was to have a body of writing that other people read and then fed back on, and then to watch how that changed and how that became more nuanced or completely different, in fact. And my very first draft is so radically different to the second draft, but so radically different to the show that we have now. So I was quite specific about who I let speak into the work for lots of reasons, predominantly because as a debut writer, I didn't want to be overwhelmed by opinion and have my own voice lost in amongst the melee of, albeit experts, expert voices. I wanted to make sure that the voices that spoke into the work I first and foremost trusted, had some understanding of the themes and ideas explored in the work, were people who were able to give constructive feedback and not just opinion. So I had the incredible wealth of experience and talent and knowledge of Rosie Helliger, Adura Anoshli, Johnny McKnight, Dawn Sivright and Ewan Black. And these were people who, for me, really helped shape and form the work, specifically in relation to the text. But also there were all the actors who, were part and parcel of the developments, who generously gave their creativity and their energies and their talents in order to help me form the characters into the characters that they are now. I'm totally indebted to everyone who invested their own creativity, their own abilities and talents into this work, because it just wouldn't be what it is now without that contribution. You know, people who really understand character and story and drive. I really wanted Throne to be fast-paced, but to not lose any of the richness of the story or the characters just because it was fast and driven. Our understanding of ourselves has gone through a crazy sort of evolution. The way we talk about ourselves, the language we use, it's, you know, for a lot of people, it feels like catch-up. And I think we are allowing ourselves now a freedom of self-definition that historically we've never had. And I think what's exciting about that is that there is freedom for people to be truly who they want to be and to become who they truly want to be and to discover who they truly want to be. But alongside that, there are historical and rooted ideas that will butt up against that and that maybe won't make space for that sense of newness around self. And I think the reason that Throne feels relevant to me is because I think we need to discover what that process looks like and embrace the mess of everyone on a discovery, on a transition, on a sense of shift and flux. And also then on top of that, to try and discover how we find language that not only has a sort of universal relevance and understanding, but also feels that it does encompass most fully everyone's understanding of themselves. But I think that's the thing. For me, you know, there's nothing wrong with holding an opinion. There's nothing wrong with having a conviction about something, but it's about how do you hold that in a way that doesn't rob the other of empathy, that dehumanises someone or that reduces someone to the sum of their argument. How do you hold your own convictions in a way that still allows for care and respect and tolerance? And I think my concern around social media is partly why Chantel's character is so rooted in that world, is that, you know, it doesn't create space for that. You know, there's a right opinion and a wrong opinion, and everyone has an opinion. It's a space for opinion to be stated with 100% conviction and with no compromise, no space for conversation, no space for curiosity. And I think that concerns me societally as we move forward. And I think, you know, community is more complex than that, it's messier than that, and actually we lose some of the beauty of disagreement. We don't know how to disagree anymore, and disagree with respect and tolerance. I think we're heading towards a really polarised, or at least a really disjointed and disunified sense of community, where community actually now means people who think exactly like you, who dress the same as you, who only can agree with you. And I think we're going to lose something of the beauty of what it is to be human in human community if we go down that route. Yeah, I didn't want to create a political manifesto piece. I didn't want to offer a solution because I actually don't think there is one. And I think the truth of it is that the solution is empathy and conversation and discussion and curiosity at its core. I think the solution is curiosity. And I think the reason that there's not a conclusion as such in the play, it was a very intentional choice. I do have opinions. I do have my own thoughts and ideas on all of the topics explored in the play, but it wasn't about that. It wasn't about, for me, it was much more about how do we approach one another as people in process, as complex beings who aren't the same person day to day even in that process, and what is it to engage with the messiness, the honest messiness of being human, and to give that grace and empathy and space to exist in the form that it is going to exist in on that day, without the expectation of people or self having to meet the expectations of certain labels or certain categories or categorizations of human. So I think the play, I hope, is more of a springboard for conversation and discussion. It's more about the process of being in a community of diverse and differing backgrounds, ideas, ideologies even, experiences, senses of self, and even realities, and what that looks like when we now then try to form a unified team. The key themes for me, I think, get back to our drive, our core drives as people, and I think that for me is belonging and a sense of self. I think those are the key themes, and sort of layered on top of that are the ideas of friendship and unity and team. And then on top of that again, there's like each individual's struggle on top of that. But I think at its core, belonging. I wrote Throne because I wanted the experience, because of the kind of experience I would want as an audience member, right? So I love things that are 100 miles an hour. I love things that you're always surprised by or you're playing catch up with. Or I didn't want to write a boring play. I didn't want to write something that people would even subconsciously have time to take a glance at their watch. The idea is that, it's got the pace of a wrestle, and they can last 2 seconds or they can last 30 seconds. And so it was fun to take the sort of timing structure of the wrestle, and also it's so relevant to my ability to hold attention. And so scenes are of varying lengths, so you're never sure, you can look away just in case there's a scene shift or you miss something important. And there's a lot of physical language as well for that reason, that the communication isn't just verbal. There's a lot of physical communication as well, little moments of unity, little moments of conflict that are physical for that reason as well. But I really wanted to write something that when you sit down, it's just bang, 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 done. The performers are so incredible, all of them. But I couldn't help myself but have a wee glance around at the audience. They almost became the performers for me on press night in the pish and rain and Dunoon. And so watching with an audience for the first time, feeling their energy and their reactions was really exciting as well. That's definitely a highlight.